The Baggers are back in finals contention after their fourth win in a row, with the catalyst of their season turnaround a lock-in at Ed Curno's. A late Jake Melksham goal continued the Lions' hoodoo at the MCG, while the Hawks v North at Marvel isn't something anyone will be rushing back to see. The Cats dealt Essendon one of the biggest smashes, the Crows home form crashes, and Stewie Jews at the Ashes. Casting our eye over round 18 and looking towards the run into finals, this is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub with St Kilda Hall of Famer Lee Montagna.
Hello, Rabsy, Damo. Yes, round 19. Gee, it's crept up on us. Finals not far away, and the big guns are starting to rise.
AFL.com head honcho Damien Barrett.
Rabsy, Joey, and we're one shorter as we speak.
We are.
We are
Where is
indeed.
he?
Well, I don't know where he is.
It's a special occasion, isn't it?
Oh, what's happened?
Wow. Let's
Let's
get
find
him
out.
in. Let's find out.
There
Yes.
he is.
Look at him. Right on the bandwagon.
We're coming. We are coming.
Oh, no.
All aboard.
Jeez.
The lid is off.
Got the full Carlton
You can
kit
smell
on.
what we're cooking.
Look at the liniment. I can smell everything.
I'm not sure. Why'd you go with the white? That's unflattering, the
Yeah,
white.
I asked for a
Carlton.
spray tan yesterday. Didn't get one. What are the bloody chances?
Take us through it. You gave us a promise last week by tipping against the Blues that if they were to win, you'd come up in that kit today.
So boots and all, I didn't realise
You were
that.
certain they couldn't win.
Well, I thought Port Adelaide was going to roll out a side that didn't resemble the Port Magpies. And then I wasn't exactly expecting Jesse Motlop just to turn into Gary Ablett Jr. Jack Silvani just to morph into Wayne Carey all of a sudden. You got Jacob Wiedering playing like Glenn Jakovic. And you got bloody Nick Newman off halfback turning into Andrew McLeod. Who bloody saw this coming?
Well, I
bloody
tipped
saw
him. I stayed.
tipped him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
we
you're
tipped
all bloody dickheads. You stuck with them the whole year.
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah.
Oh, my
Never
goodness.
jumped off. Never jumped off, Damo, and they're starting to repay the favour. Well done, Daisy.
Yeah.
So
thank
what's
you.
happened? Is that out of your own collection? It
Yeah.
looks pretty new, actually. It looks a brand newy.
No, this isn't my own collection.
No.
This is, I had to wander into Chadstone yesterday and go into the AFL store. I went to my storage shed that's got all my old stuff in it, and the jumper touched too tight, I thought. Okay. So I wandered into the AFL store, and you should have seen the look on the young girl's face in there when I started asking for Carlton tops and long sleeves. She's looking down. And anyway, we got it done. So here I am. We're all aboard the Blues train.
Did you get a
You're a man of
discount
your
at
word.
least? Did
No,
you get-
$120.
No discount?
No discount.
Ah,
You're a
very
man
good.
of your word, though.
I am. Yeah. So I still can't tip Carlton because I ran my mouth earlier in the season about that too. So we move on.
But secretly, are you on the bandwagon?
I
you
think-
all aboard?
Mate, I hope it continues. The turnaround has been incredible.
It's great
They
for
were a
footy.
boring, passive side for the best part of 12 rounds, and now all of a sudden they are playing exciting
Now
football.
they're winning by 9 goals
and
every week.
against the second team on the ladder. I don't know what's happened.
So $120 that cost you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Joey,
Which is, I think, value for money considering how much material's in it.
we've been sent something in the last 24 hours
have.
that
Oh, shit.
pertains to you and
Oh,
your
no.
activity. So you might be able to recoup that 120 pretty quickly, given how much you are exorbitantly charging people to listen to you and Cocko, Bill Browne, speak at a lunch on Friday.
The lunch is called off, Damo.
It's called off.
Yeah.
Is it? Well, no wonder, Damo. At
Well, no
$165
wonder.
Is that
bucks a
ticket
head.
sales or
What's that?
is it ticket sales?
No, I think Bill pulled out.
Well, I
Well,
think
maybe
ticket
it's
sales.
ticket
It's
sales.
$165
$160. And we wanted to get into
Hey,
this
that's-
thing. What could you possibly offer for $160
all
to
of this
people?
great material.
Is it a crown? Are you going to Nobu? No, you're going to the
Well, it was the
I give
Orion.
everyone $100 cash back when they walk in, so $65 isn't too bad.
Oh, no wonder. There you go. That makes a bit
And
more
all
sense.
the inside stories, Damo, the ones that you would have liked to have known about.
Yeah. I thought we'd get them on the midweek rub. But
No, you're just rolling out the B material for what I'm getting
what we
paid
might
here.
need to do, though, Joey, is find out why it was cancelled.
We will.
No, with lack of ticket sales, I can come back. A lot of parents blowing up, been school holidays, they've all been to Europe, they've all
All
been
those
to
excuses.
Snow. Yeah.
Yes,
So
that
a
makes
bit of a
sense.
dent to the ego, but that's all right.
Ah, very good.
Is that it?
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
I
How long
agree.
you on?
I concur.
Fanningham of Fugazi, of course, will be coming up later on, but we do need to get into some news. Damo, Alistair Clarkson is back at North. We'll chat news next on the Midweek Rub.
It's become an annual conversation now, should this club get draft concessions? And they got some in a form last year where they got access to lower numbered picks in rounds of the draft, which they then had to use to trade in players. And they chose to bring in Darcy Tucker and Griffin Logue as part of that. There's the conversation going on again. We'll get on to it in a moment. The AFL CEOs are gathering at Werribee for the past 48 hours, and these types of matters are being discussed. But Look, I feel it'll happen this way, and we won't get an answer on this until the trade period and the free agency. But Ben Mackay is obviously a free agent. He's chosen to not reveal his own future at this stage. We expect, or there's an expectation, it will play out as a free agent. He goes. Obviously, the club that would attract him would need to put a number on his head to allow North Melbourne to get the high draft pick, which would be their own draft pick at number 2, and then the immediate one that follows. So that would be my way of saying, the way the system works, it can be manufactured, it can be manipulated for that to be the case. But I'd be loath to give them any more concessions than that, because they had 9 first-round draft pick players in the game on the weekend days, and you just said it was dreadful. They chose not to play Will Phillips, who's a 10th first-round draft pick. So that's not fixing them. The development's the problem.
Yeah, no doubt about that, because they haven't improved as we would have thought, because they've been down there for so long. I think the first half of the season we saw a little bit of improvement in terms of they weren't getting blown away, but this back end has fallen away. Pick 2 and pick 3, you can turn that around pretty quickly. Pick 2 this year was
Wardlaw and Sheasel.
There
3
you
and
go.
4 it became,
Three and
with
four.
the national academies coming in.
Yeah,
and
so
Father Sons.
Sheasel's going to be an absolute jet. He was someone on the weekend who every time he got the ball, you knew he was going to make a good decision. Wardlaw, from what we've seen, small sample size, if he gets his body right, can really help. And if you get 2 more kids like that, a little bit like what the Blues have done, it took a fair amount of time for all their number 1 picks to have some impact, but it can turn around.
Heaps of conversations going on with club CEOs and AFL officials in the past 2 days at Werribee Mansion, where they've had their annual get-together. The soft cap was discussed. There's a bit of movement in that space. I think that the AFL is now really cognizant of the need to increase it more than it has previously declared. But the wild card possibilities on the finals, I'll just quickly say I'm against it. To me, there's an already very flawed fixture of 23 matches in 2023. You've got 18 teams that begin the competition. I think 8's on the borderline of being too many for a final series anyway, and now we want to extend it from a playoff perspective anyway, potentially down to 10. That's my views. You go for it, you guys.
Well, I see it the opposite way. I think because of the unfair nature of the fixturing and teams that get the West Coast Eagles and North Melbourne's twice and other teams don't, it is unfair. So I think it's some way of equalising it, that if you had a play, and I'm all for it, I think anything that we can add to increase the excitement levels, and it's still a top 8. It's just that you have 2 sudden death games to make the final spots in the top 8. It might actually even it up. So if the team that's finished 7th got West Coast and North Melbourne both twice, the team that finished 9th didn't, or 10th didn't, they get the chance to play off against each other to see who deserves the spot in the 8. I like it. I think that it's worked in other sports. I'm a progressive. I think it'll add huge excitement and flair to the competition. I'm keen for it.
So if the Saints finish in 8th and they come up against Richmond in the first wildcard round, you'd be happy with that?
Absolutely, yeah. Because then it's just a different mindset. It becomes a top 6. You've got to finish in the top 6 to guarantee you're in finals. The teams that are 7th and 8th are playing for their life, just like 9 and 10th. It adds so many dimensions. I mean, right now you talk about teams that can't play finals. All of a sudden, Fremantle, Sydney, some other clubs that right now, what do they do with it a year? The incentive for those teams is to actually keep losing, put players out for surgery, say we want to finish lower, get a higher draft pick, get a better fixture for next year, and put your players on ice and freshen them up. If all of a sudden 10th is up for grabs, Fremantle and Sydney might all of a sudden go, you know what? If we can win these games, we can sneak into 10th spot, and you never know. So I think it just keeps other teams alive. As I said, I think there's a lot of positives in it.
Meaning that more than half the teams that set out 23 weeks ago in this marathon are still a chance to play playoffs, finals, whatever word you want to attach to it.
Right now they are. Right now there is still 10 or 11 teams.
Yeah, but only 8. At least 8 only 8 get there.
8 still get there. 8 still get there in this system. It's just a play-in.
It's just the language around
how you
play
in to get into the 8 rather than get in. Yeah. I think the language is important because people are thinking it's a top 10.
If you say it's a top 6, I could maybe be open to the conversation.
But in that logic, aren't the elimination finals already wildcard games?
Exactly right. So I've heard people arguing, but I think Brett Ratton was one of them. Oh, it's unfair if the team that finished 7th is 3 games ahead of the team that finished 10th. It's the exact same argument as at the moment a team that's 5th is 3 games clear of the team that finishes 8th. Yet they are playing in a elimination game. It's the exact same principle. It's just that we're going to have an extra 2 games of it.
Yeah, and then you'll eventually want to bring it into the 12th and 14th place teams, Joey, and get it all
well,
you're down to 6. I mean, you're down to more than half the competition
in the grand final.
Half the competition are all a chance to half the competition are a chance to make the finals now.
Before we move on, Brodie Grundy. Damo, what's the latest there?
Yeah, the latest is that he's going to have to, as we discussed last week, refine his forward craft, which he doesn't have. Look, we've dealt with this topic. We've all had a crack at it on our various platforms on this station and other media outlets. What happens to Brodie Grundy in the future now is the big question, and I'd be staggered if he wants to stay. I know he's got a contract for 2027, and that at some stage of that period, you'd think Max Gawn may hang them up. But we don't know that. So he could still be the understudy to Max Gawn for a couple of years. So I think it's on. It's on again that he could be at a third club. And look, Geelong looked at him last year. St Kilda's got a possibility there. Port Adelaide may want to look. Any other
so you
suitors?
think he's going to put the hand up and say, look, I came here to be an impact with the footy club.
What would you do if you're Brodie Grundy? What would you do?
Geez, part of it says you see it out, doesn't it? Try and earn your spot back in there. Max Gawn goes down tomorrow.
Well, that's the unknown.
Right.
That's the unknown. But Max is pretty durable, apart from the 1 year he had with the knee.
But there's still a spot in the forward line. And we know Brodie doesn't, at the moment, have great craft, but there's a spot there to be had.
It's not Brodie Grundy's, though. He's not a forward.
Daisy, I mean, I don't want to debate you on a footy topic here, but he's not a forward.
That's all right. It hasn't worked. We can admit it hasn't worked, and I think everyone's grown up.
We're going to draw a line through it after 1 year.
Well, the club has. The club's drawn a line through it after 16 weeks.
Yeah.
And they may have only waited 16 weeks because Gawn was injured for 4 weeks when he got the solo spot. So the club's abandoned the plan. I'm not buying it. He's not getting a game as a full forward.
Is there an element, Damo, that it's actually been Max Gawn that's let Brodie Grundy down? Because Brodie Grundy got sold that Max Gawn was going to be the predominant forward and Brodie Grundy the predominant ruck. Now, for whatever reason, it hasn't worked with Max Gawn. So he's now gone back to the number one ruck spot. So in some ways, it's actually Maxi Gawn who said, I will play forward, but hasn't been able to deliver on his end of the bargain.
Has Simon Goodwin let Max Gawn down? Has he abandoned it too? Because he that's where it started.
Yeah.
It was Simon Goodwin, I believe, into Max Gawn having this view.
And needed Max Gawn to buy into it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And Maxie's such a good bloke. Of course, he's going to do what someone above him.
Doesn't help when Brodie sits out and Max Gawn plays one of the great games of all time.
That's right.
With a catalogue of great games behind it, yeah. And just one more on before we finish off this little news break. Asava Radaglia, the Cats looked really, really good last week. Really, really settled. As settled in their backline as at any stage of 2023 without Asava Radaglia there. Is he done for the year?
Oh, well, I've believed this for a while since he's come back. He's not in their best back seven. Their best back seven is the 7 that played grand final day, the 7 that are playing at the moment, and he's not a part of that. So that's okay. But
is he 8th?
Probably. He's a backup. Yeah, he's a backup.
But
if one of the tools
this
go
is
down.
sort of the point is that you can't just have, sweet, there's our back 6, there's our middle 6, there's our forward 6, and we'll just piss off any other player that might not be getting a game.
No, Geelong would probably want to keep him. Geelong did that this year for the exact same reason. We need Radaglia, which actually worked. But we're talking about for Radagalia's point of view. Does he want to stay as the backup, or should he go and be a starting key back at another club? I think he probably, if he doesn't get back in the side, I think it's fair that he
Do you think he walks into another top 8 club as a key defender, though?
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially at Port Adelaide, which was interested in him in the off-season. And the problems they've now got, obviously with Mackenzie going down last week and Jonas coming back in and being exposed against your mighty Blues.
Yeah, how good are the Blues?
Might be able to ruck and play forward at the Ds. Who knows? Fair dinkum or Fugazi coming up next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Lee Montagna, Melbourne could still finish top 2. Their run home includes Adelaide, Richmond, North in Tassie, Carlton, Hawthorn and Sydney at the SCG.
100%. That's fair income. Rabs, 4 of those 6 at the MCG. Port Adelaide, Brisbane, both have tough runs.
You never dropped
finish.
off at these?
No, I'm still bullish. They've always held up defensively. Now they've found a bit of their offensive firepower. I'm still thinking that's possible. They could finish top 2, fair income.
Damo, Brisbane's 1 point loss to Melbourne at the MCG dispelled the hoodoo as much as a win would have.
I'm going to give you a fair dinkum on that one, Rabsy. We look at football in a very unique way, don't we? 7 minutes before that match finished, the world was so beautiful for the Lions and how they'd conquered everything. They'd conquered Melbourne, they'd conquered the MCG, and 7 minutes later, it was a very different story. So I'm going to give you a fair dinkum. Yeah, I reckon if they can work their way through what happened in those 7 minutes as opposed to what happened at the MCG, they'll have been better for the run and will have convinced themselves that it's not an issue.
I reckon that makes the hoodoo bigger.
Do you?
Well, if you're 24 points up with 7 minutes to go, there's no way you should lose.
But it wasn't the ground that lost it, though, for them, was it? Oh, in the way I saw those last 7 minutes. Yeah. Or maybe it was. Maybe the dimensions got them.
That's exactly right.
But you're right, Damo. 1 minute of football can change the narrative and the history of a lot of stories. Careers and everything, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. Even just a set shot shank from Jake Malcolm. Daisy, Harry Mackay's injury could make Carlton's forward line better in the short term.
I think that's fair income. The way that Jack Silvani played on the weekend in that role, and he's been screaming out to be put in a permanent position, it just changed the dynamic of the way Charlie played, and then Jack played a lot deeper. And then the smalls, I think that's the first time we've really seen their smalls get really busy at ground level and look as dangerous as they have. So obviously, Harry's a very key part to that. But when you only have one effective forward in Charlie. And if he's coming out, you know where it's more predictable to go at ground level. So I think that's fair income.
Joey, he's already won a premiership, but the Dogs are in danger of wasting Marcus Bontempelli's career.
No, that's Fugazi. It's not about one player. It's not NBA. It's not basketball. You need a whole team to be able to perform. He's a superstar, but there's been plenty of the greatest of all time that haven't won premierships. So that's not on him or, not his doing. So it's Fugazi.
Geez, you shot that down quickly.
Yeah,
really
well,
quick.
it's not.
I didn't mind the question. I might have gone fair income with that one.
Yeah.
I love him, as you know.
I know. He's an absolute superstar. But
did your mate Bevo said at the start of the season we've cost him a Browne?
Yeah, effectively he did. And he referred there to the 2021 season when he got 33 votes, which wins most years, and Wine's got 36. But he just, those late season games they lost, if you remember, then they just held on and surged through. But yeah, that's what he's referring to.
Lost to Port in the last round, and Wine's got votes, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Damo, Hawthorn are already further along in their rebuild than North Melbourne.
Oh, yeah, by some distance. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we needed to see what happened in round 18 to know that to be the case. But that's on North as much as it is on Hawthorn. I mean, I said before that they're now about to finish for a fourth consecutive year, either last or second last. They haven't done that for 90 years, and there's no end in sight with how bad this team is at the moment. And I would fully expect, and I think everyone else will too, when they do their ladder predictions for 2024, that'll be a fifth year as well down that zone.
Daisy, GWS are the best travellers in footy with wins in New South Wales, South Australia, Victoria, Tassie and Northern Territory this season.
Yeah, that's hard to debunk, so I will say fair dinkum with that. They've been awesome, especially in the last 5 weeks. That win against Melbourne where they had no right to win it in terms of what the stats were put out there. And then from there, the confidence that's given them going forward, they're a real live chance to be in the 8 after this week with Essendon playing the Western Bulldogs. One of those sides lose. If GWS can roll the Gold Coast Suns, they'll be in the top 8 by the end of the round. And you wouldn't want to come up against them if you are sort of in that bottom half in the first set of the finals.
Damo, I'm going to play you some audio here.
Tommy Browne. Tom Browne.
It's getting sushi.
Mark Howard to Tom Browne. Tom Browne comes in. I've never seen a boundary rider like him, Chewy, in the history of this channel that just wanders off mid-broadcast.
I'm here,
He's name dropping, talking to Gil McLaughlin.
He's talking to Gil while he should be. Just hang on. Tommy! No, he's far more interested in the CEO. Tommy, massive injury story breaking down there. What can you tell us right in front of you?
I'll just give you an update very shortly, Howie. I was just actually speaking to the AFL CEO, Gil McLaughlin, so you might have caught me out.
Yeah.
Tommy, we've been trying to get you for 10 minutes, and you put the tightest tag on Gil we've ever seen. There's no injury.
You were chewing his ear off, Tommy.
Our man, Tom Browne, needs to take his boundary riding responsibilities a bit more seriously.
No, Fugazi, Rabsy, you've got to take your opportunities with the boss, particularly as he's on his exit tour, because he's getting loose, the boss. He's making all sorts of claims publicly, and he might just scrounge one of those lines he's always wanted.
He did that in Gather Round as well, Tom Browne, didn't he? Went missing when all the head honchos were around. He was meant to be boundary riding, and he just didn't show up because he thought there was some bigger fish to fry.
He had a pizza date with someone else.
Joey Montagna, our man, Daisy Thomas, is being flown interstate by Channel 7 on Saturday to do specials. So I'm giving it to you. Channel 7 have finally realised the potential of Daisy Thomas.
100%. That's fair income. He's the best in the business, and he deserves his opportunity to be sitting up next to the callers in the big chair.
Which game?
Port v Collingwood.
Oh,
not even a
good game.
God,
Talking about the biggest game of the year.
And they get you straight in.
Understandably.
Wow.
I like it.
Love it.
With the way I'm seeing the game at the moment, why wouldn't you? The Blues, and I tip North as my certainty.
Daisy Thomas, Dipper, BT, David Cloak. They're the bygone era. Oleg Markov's moustache is the best of the modern era.
Yeah, that's fair income. That thing is absolute filth. It twirls back on itself. It's got length. It's got protrusion off the top lip. It's got everything you want when you want to look like a dead set porn star but still have to play AFL footy. I love everything Oleg is doing.
All right. Daisy Thomas, that was a good answer. I'm going to ask you, Damien Barrett. I've heard of games being called unwatchable, but Joey's assessment of the North Hawks game was spot on.
You're a little bit disrespectful, I feel.
Audio. This is the audio.
They get it moving, the Kangaroos, and that's another poor kick from Darcy Tucker. This is a real poo-off.
That is
a real stinker.
one of the great summations of this.
It's a real stinker.
A real poo-off.
Yeah. I did subject myself to most of it, not all of it, because I couldn't go all through it. But then the one after that one, the Richmond West Coast one, wasn't much better. It was one of the worst Sundays of scheduling I think we've seen ever.
I like Daisy's next line in that. He said Marvel just needed to open the roof a little bit just to let the stench out, because that's how bad that game was between North and Hawthorn.
That's the worst skills in a game you're ever likely to see.
Shocking.
And finally, Joey Montagna. Brian Myers is to the AFL what Lionel Messi is to the world of soccer.
Oh, this has been a great story. It's been so much fun. It's given us some good fodder for the week. I think Jared's finally seen the lighter side of it. It's taken him 7 days, but I think he's finally seen the humour in it.
And Brian Myers kicking the first goal and having 11 score assists in that game.
Yes, I think he gave a Lionel Messi celebration too after his goal. So very, very good.
Incredible. Round 19 kicks off on Friday night with a huge clash between the Bombers and the Bulldogs. We'll get your predictions next on the Midweek Rub. Round 19 kicks off on Friday night with a top 8 defining clash between the Bombers and the Bulldogs. But before we get there, let's have a listen to your predictions from round 18.
My certainty, St Kilda. If they play like they did against Melbourne, even without Max King, they will win.
Nope. Damo?
I'm going to jump in with a certainty here.
Ooh.
Brisbane.
Oh, like it, Damon.
Close.
Yeah, really close.
Real close. And Daisy.
Collingwood, my certainty, and north of the Smoky.
Not go Collingwood.
All right, I'll go north, my certainty, and my Smoky.
I like it. I like it better.
So you were right, and then you got bullied into being wrong.
Nah, north.
Yeah, bullied.
North Melbourne.
The show's boring if we all just did Collingwood every week as our certainty.
Didn't want to play Joey and I tipping
Carlton?
the Blues? You didn't want to play that?
No.
I understand that. Yeah, I wouldn't play it either. But we did.
Suit the rhetoric of the show, Damo.
I know.
Rhetoric's a good word.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's 3 syllables. Let's kick off with Friday night's game. Essendon versus the Bulldogs. Joey Montagna.
Oh, I'm a sucker for. I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm going the Western Bulldogs, but I don't know why. They are such a hard team to catch. I can't figure them out. They need to see a shrink. They're a head scratcher, but I keep looking at their team and keep thinking they should win, so I'm going to tip them.
I'm going to forgive Essendon for its performance against Geelong last week. I thought they'd lose, not that badly. I reckon they're better than that, and I think they will regain composure against the Bulldogs. So Essendon for me.
I don't know where to look in this one. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs for some of the reasons you say. I couldn't have been bigger on Essendon from what they did the week before against Adelaide, and the same with the Saints, and they both let us down. So I'll go with the Bulldogs because.
Joey, will your mate Andrew McQualter continue his audition to be the Tigers' next head coach with another win against the Hawks?
He's firming by the week, isn't he? Yet Richmond get the job done again, keep their finals hopes alive.
Slight danger game, but Tigers.
Carlton, West Coast, we know you two will choose Carlton, and you obviously can't choose Carlton, Daisy.
Yeah, I'll take the overs in this one, 176.5, so that's where I'm looking there.
Big story is how many does Charlie Curnow kick to try and win the Coleman? That's what we put it on him on the Sunday Rub, Daisy. We had him and we told him this is the game. Don't be too unselfish. Fill your boots in this
What
one.
did he say?
He sort of laughed it off, but
he laughed in a
laughed,
manner that he
but
knew it was true.
Yeah.
I was like, I won't. Weak.
Brisbane versus Geelong. This is a huge game at the Gabatoir.
Massive game. Brisbane don't lose at home. They were terrific against Melbourne, let's be honest. There was 7 minutes of footy that blew it.
Yeah.
So I think Brisbane should get the job done against the Cats.
Yeah, I like what they did for all but 7 minutes last week too, but I'm back on Geelong in a massive way, and I reckon they're just rolling, or about to roll, and I reckon they'll like this encounter.
I'm not sure how they've snuck into 5th spot on the ladder, the Cats. They've been out of the 8th.
Because no one else in that bottom five is
and then all of a sudden they just win, and in they go. I think it's a real danger game, but I'm going to take the Lions at home.
No one else in the bottom 5 are any good. Do you want the wildcard round to come in, Joey Montagna?
That's right, to make it interesting.
Make it 7.
Yeah.
Fremantle versus Sydney. You talk about Essendon Bulldogs being hard to predict. What about the Dockers and the Swans?
That's
15th v 16th, I think.
the two biggest disappointments of the year. Is it in Perth?
Yes.
Yep.
Freo then.
Swans.
The biggest game of the round, Port Adelaide versus Collingwood. Going to go to you. Special comments for Channel 7, Daisy Thomas.
I think the Pies. I was really shocked at what Port Adelaide delivered on the weekend. Granted, they had a lot of players out, but that fell away pretty quickly. No doubt there's a response coming, but you can't look past the Pies. What they do week in, week out, you can trust that they're going to bring the effort and the system for the whole 120 minutes. And for that reason, I think after this round, it will be their premiership to lose.
Going with Port in this one, Rabsy, I'm just taking out what happened last week, and even though I tipped them to lose, I didn't like what happened, but I reckon they mentally had looked the week ahead with some of the selections they made and just how they may have even played the game itself. And I reckon they've been gearing themselves up for this game for some time and want to make a statement in a big way. So I'm going to be prepared to back them in that process.
I spent all day yesterday doing a deep dive on Collingwood, and they are not as invincible as people think with their profile. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a wide open race for the premiership. Whether Port are good enough and what their health looks like coming into this one to beat Collingwood, but it'll be a close game. And just Collingwood, aren't as invincible as maybe some think.
So who are you tipping?
All that said, the Pies.
On that, this will be a close one. So toss
Take away the laptops and the numbers and Kingy. What's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me probably Collingwood in this one.
What did you uncover in your deep dive?
That they're going to have to buck the trend to win the flag.
Which trend is that they are bucking?
Playing it from the back half.
Okay.
Winning games, trying to move the ball from the back half. It's been awesome, but against the very best teams in finals, history says it's hard to do. Now, they might be good enough to do it. And we'll, but it's interesting.
Couldn't do it against Brisbane and
no,
Melbourne.
No other club in the history of the game has had Nick Dacos.
No other player in the history. No, that's right. He's the only Nick Dacos.
Well, I'm saying, we haven't seen a talent like this.
No, that's right. And that's the caveat. They absolutely can still win it. And they still might because their system is just better. But it's just bucking a bit of the trend.
Just don't like the Pies, do you?
No.
That's what it gets down to.
It's come back.
Goes back to 2010.
Still salty.
Yeah.
Can't get over it.
Giants versus Gold Coast. Both clubs still in a chance to play finals.
Giants for me.
Giants and
Giants.
the Suns.
Yeah,
Giants.
Melbourne versus Adelaide. Another huge game at the MCG.
Melbourne, Adelaide's magic's worn off a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with Joey on that assessment. I was all in. I'm now not, and Melbourne.
Yeah, I was a lot the same with these guys, but the record from Adelaide at the MCG, horrible. Haven't won from their last 7. These should be too good.
And finally, Saints and North.
Saints better win this.
So
otherwise, Cuddly Ross will be officially gone for good.
What are your certainties and a surprise quickly before we wrap up?
Melbourne, my certainty to beat Adelaide. We don't want to go too boring.
Pretty boring.
I'll take GWS to roll Gold Coast.
I'll take that as a certainty, and I'll take Port Adelaide as, I'm assuming it's an upset. Is it on the bookies charts? I'm assuming it's an upset.
It is an upset.
They're almost
$1.85
equal.
or
almost
95.
equal.
We'll give you an upset.
Yeah,
Second beat
I'll take
first.
Geelong as my upset.
There you go. We can catch every game across round 10 on Triple M, starting with the Friday huddle ahead of Essendon versus the Western Bulldogs, live from Marvel Stadium with Luke Darcy, Mark Howard, Jason Dunstall, Nathan Browne, and this man, Damien Barrett. This has been Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub.